The USMCA, or what a lot of people are calling NAFTA 2.0, or the new NAFTA, it just passed the Senate. It was a victory for Trump on trade. Take that for what you will. But it came up during the debate 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to play this clip, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Senator Sanders, you have said that New Deal, the USMCA, quote, makes some modest improvements, yet you're going to vote against it. Aren't modest improvements better than no improvements for the farmers and manufacturers who have been devastated here in Iowa?
The answer is we could do much better than a Trump-led trade deal. This deal, and I think the proponents of it acknowledge, will result in the continuation of the loss of hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs as a result of outsourcing. The heart and soul of our disastrous trade agreements, and I'm the guy who voted against NAFTA and against permanent normal trade relations with China, is that we have forced American workers to compete against people in Mexico, in China, elsewhere, who earn starvation wages, $1 or $2 an hour. Second of all, every major environmental organization has said no to this new trade agreement because it does not even have the phrase climate change in it. And given the fact that climate change is right now the greatest threat facing this planet, I will not vote for a trade agreement that does not incorporate very, very strong principles to significantly lower fossil fuel emissions in the world.
So this is what members of the establishment mean when they say that Bernie Sanders doesn't get things done. What they mean is that when Republicans try to give you nothing, they give you the tiniest little bit of saying, oh, well, it's slightly better than what we have now, so let's do that, and then we'll use that as an excuse to not do anything in the future. Because like we already gave you one thing. So when they say that Bernie Sanders doesn't get anything done in Congress, what they mean is that he actually stands for something and that he doesn't capitulate to right-wing forces. He says, this bill's not good enough. I'm not putting my name on it. We're going to fight for something that's better because the unions oppose it. The climate groups oppose it. It doesn't talk about climate change at all. And it's going to continue to devastate working class people. So when they say that Bernie can't get anything done, what they mean is that he does not capitulate to the right wing. So keep that in mind when you hear people say that Bernie has never gotten anything done, because that's also not true. And I'll probably do a video detailing that a little bit in the future, because they call him the amendment king. He puts things in and then he takes his name off of it so that he knows it gets passed, because he knows that Republicans are bullheaded and that if they see the socialists' name on the legislation, they're going to oppose it no matter what, even if it's good for their constituents or good for their bottom line even, potentially. So that's what they mean when they say he can't get anything done. And this is framed in this way. There's like, well, if you say that it will have some, moderate improvements, why don't you just pass it and leave well enough alone, Bernie? Come on. Isn't it good enough?
But Senator Sanders, to be clear, the AFL-CIO supports this deal. Are you unwilling to compromise?
The AFL-CIO does, the Machinists Union does not, and every environmental organization in this country, including the Sunrise Organization, who are supporting my candidacy, opposes it. So I happen to believe, and I hope we will talk about climate change in a moment, if we do not get our act together in terms of climate change, the planet that we're going to be leaving our kids and our children and our grandchildren will be increasingly unlivable and uninhabitable.
We're going to get to climate change, but I'd like to stay on trade. Senator Warren.
Well, they are the same in this issue.
And I think that is really ridiculous that she brings up specifically the AFL-CIO as if that's the only labor union that exists. There's a lot more, and they all oppose it. And again, I mean, the moderators in this debate were very combative with Bernie and not the others. And you know what? He can take it, so fine. And I think it makes him look better because it looks like they're not giving him a fair shake, especially when he responds with like, this is about climate change. You guys, it wasn't CNN that tried to pull it last time, but at the last debate, they did the same thing where they're talking about race. And then he brings up climate change and they're like, no, we're talking about race. It's like these are the same things. People of color are disproportionately affected by climate change. People in unions, people affected by this trade deal, are disproportionately affected by climate change. These are all the same issue. You can't put issues into silos and say, well, we're not talking about that right now. We need to stick to the topic. They're trying to do that, to act like he's avoiding the question, but he's not. He's providing a well thought out, well-rounded response to the question. And this is evidence that these debates and the corporate media, their goal is not to inform you, the public, about the issues, about the candidates. Their goal is to provide some fireworks and to get the person who is the least likely to get anything done elected.
Senator Warren, you support the USMCA. Why is Senator Sanders wrong?
I do. I wasn't here. I haven't been in Congress long enough to have voted against NAFTA, but I led the fight against the trade deal with Asia and the trade deal with Europe because I didn't think it was in the interests of the American people, the American workers, or environmental interests. But we have farmers here in Iowa who are hurting, and they are hurting because of Donald Trump's initiated trade wars. We have workers who are hurting because the agreements that have already been cut really don't have enforcement on workers' rights. This new trade deal is a modest improvement. Senator Sanders himself has said so. It will give some relief to our farmers. It will give some relief to our workers. I believe we accept that relief. We try to help the people who need help, and we get up the next day and fight for a better trade deal.
And that sounds reasonable, right? We take it for what it is, we pass it, and then we fight for something better. Except the truth is, the way that Washington works is that we're focusing on the trade deal right now. We pass it or we don't, and then we move on. That's how it works. Unless it's Obamacare, in which case the Republicans are going to try to repeal ad nauseum until they make it so inefficient and useless that you have to get rid of it, you have to scrap it. But this is an inherent flaw in the way that Elizabeth Warren and incrementalists fight. Demand a better deal. Say, we're not passing this one. Try again. Let's keep working on this because this is important. What's more important than this, the impeachment trial? They can get this passed, but they can't even introduce Medicare for All to the floor of the House, Nancy Pelosi. We can get this garbage trade deal that still sells out the working class of this country and of other countries. This is a bad deal for the working class in Mexico and Canada too. This isn't just about American working people. This is about the international proletariat. This is important. So to capitulate on this means that you'll capitulate on everything. The way that you've capitulated on Medicare for All, saying that you're going to fight for a public option first. It's ridiculous. So this happened before the USMCA was passed. It did get passed a couple days later. There were 10 senators who voted against it, 8 of which were Democrats. Before I name those Democrats, let me say that all 6 candidates, aside from Bernie Sanders, on the debate stage, were in favor of the USMCA. Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar. The other one? Who else was there? I don't even remember. Whatever. They were all in favor of the USMCA, except for Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders was the far lefty, and Joe Biden even made a comment. He's like, I don't think there's a trade policy that my friend from Vermont would ever support. And he said that like it was a diss, but no, he shouldn't. That's what he should do. He should demand the best thing. Why is the default always to capitulate to the right wing? Is it because Democrats are funded by the same people as Republicans? I don't know. The same people who benefit from these trade deals, the people that are funding their campaigns and making it so that they can live in multi-million-dollar houses on Martha's Vineyard. I don't know. Maybe. So here are the senators, the far lefties, to the left of Bernie Sanders even, the way that they were kind of setting it up during that debate. Here's who voted against it. Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is to the left of Elizabeth Warren on a trade deal. So I got to give him props there. You're not going to hear me giving Chuck Schumer a lot of props. I'll give him props on that one. Kirsten Gillibrand. All right, Kirsten. Cory Booker. Kamala Harris. Makes you kind of wish that they were on that debate stage, doesn't it? And then a bunch of names that I don't know. Sheldon Whitehouse, which, I mean, Mr. Whitehouse is what you should have to change your name to when you become president. That's all I'm saying. Mr. Whitehouse. I always liked seeing that when I'm watching C-SPAN. Brian Schatz from Hawaii. Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, Republican. Oh, I guess it was 8 Democrats and 1 Republican and 1 independent, which was Bernie Sanders, who voted against it. So, yeah. So that's the USMCA. The Senate passed it, whatever. I mean, yeah, there it is. I guess they got... the way that it was reported was that Senate passes USMCA bill giving Trump a win on trade. You're voting for that bill gave Trump a win. Which, if Trump wanted to pass Medicare for all, wanted to close down Guantanamo, giving him a win would be a good thing. Trump talking to Kim Jong-un instead of sending missiles to North Korea, that's a win for Trump, and I think that's a win for everybody. But giving Trump a win on a trade deal that still sells out the working class, still sells out the people that he appealed to in 2016, he said that the Republicans and the Democrats are screwing you, and I'm not going to screw you. And he screwed them with this bill. And the Democrats helped him. Elizabeth Warren helped him. Joe Biden helped him. He didn't vote for it, but he supported it vocally. And he's the front runner still. Here's AOC. Trump's NAFTA 2.0 is an enormous multinational prize for climate deniers and the fossil fuel industry. Climate and trade are one and the same. It's a carbon emissions nightmare that locks the U.S. in for years and blocks whoever wins the presidency in 2020 from negotiating a better deal. It's a bad idea, folks. And then here's Bernie Sanders, who tweeted about it. 250 pages, 37,500 words, not a single damn mention of climate change. Trump's NAFTA is a giveaway to the fossil fuel industry. I voted no because the future of our planet is more important than the short-term profits of ExxonMobil and Chevron. Boom! And I liked this tweet, so I'm going to share it with you. It says, Warren's biggest tactical mistake this week wasn't calling Bernie sexist. It was voting for the USMCA, which I agree with. Calling the Bernie, all the Bernie Warren sexism stuff, that was all pro wrestling BS. This is legitimate. And let's read the whole tweet. That's NAFTA 2.0. That means she's lost the Rust Belt. And that means she's lost any hope of winning the nomination. Now, some of you might be saying, well, this is Trump's bill too, so if it's Warren versus Trump, then who are they going to vote for? They're going to vote for Trump. Let's be real. They both support new NAFTA, which still screws over the working class. But you know what Trump's got that Elizabeth Warren doesn't have? I'm sorry, let me rephrase. You know what Elizabeth Warren has that Trump doesn't? Shame. Because they both voted for, they both support new NAFTA. So what's the election going to be about? It's going to be about the Pocahontas stuff. It's going to be about, that's what it's going to be about. Because you can't try to out-moral Donald Trump because he has no morals. And because his supporters don't care about his morals. They just care about the fact that he's owning the libs and that he's unapologetically who he is. This is a big issue for Elizabeth Warren. And I know she's falling in the polls, and now it kind of feels like I'm punching down a little bit at this point. But, there's a lot of people who still support her over Bernie Sanders, and I just do not get it. I should get it, because the fact is that if you support Elizabeth Warren, you're not a progressive. You're just a Democrat. You're a liberal. You're not a progressive. You're not fighting to break up the status quo, because she's putting on a facade, folks. You're not going to beat Trump and not be better than him on trade. You got to be better than him on trade. And this is not just shitting on Elizabeth Warren now, I guess. It's Joe Biden. It's Pete Buttigieg. They all supported it. So this is another loss for the working class, and it's just another, I think, as bad as it is, it's going to work in Bernie's favor.